The recording is in progress. Hello and welcome everybody. Daryl Snyder, Fantasy Sports Logic and Sportstopia. We've been uplifted into the Sportstopia podcast. You see the Fire and Ice podcast that goes on every day, Monday through Friday, little MLB action at 9:30 a.m. and NFL at noon Pacific. Today we're going to talk about the Thursday night football slate. There's a Millionaire Maker. It means there's $1 million on top, the DraftKings, and also FanDuel. I'm in a couple of entries in FanDuel. We have R.C. Fischer, founder, Fantasy Football Metrics. You can see if you're looking at the screen, I have them now included as a provider, or we do, in the optimizer. We're going to talk about that Giants 49ers slate. RC's been in the industry, known for his in-depth study of film, season-long fantasy, has a great clientele, and it has a down in the weeds. The podcast, we're still toying around with it. We really like RC's, we'll call it TNF for TNF. He does a Monday show, but Thursday night football picks from somewhere around his back pocket podcast. So we're still trying to maybe figure out an acronym for that. But RC, he's having a little internet issue, so he's not on camera today. But he is here in person and spirit. How are you, RC?
And the title of this show could be RC from the Stone Age, because we do not have internet. I'm working off of my phone connection, hoping it will be stable enough to talk about Thursday night football. So
you sound loud and clear, so all good there. We had you on video earlier and it was a little bit watery, so we wanted to make sure your voice came through. We've got a good slate. I just refreshed. The optimizer's up. For those of you that aren't familiar, $7-day test drive allows you to access MLB and NFL. All slates relevant to DraftKings, FanDuel. We're going to specifically focus on my goal as the founder of Fantasy Sports Logic and Sportstopia is to win 2 Millie Makers this year. And to win 2, you have to start with winning the first one. So I'm pretty optimistic about tonight. I want to hear what RC has to say. I know there's some injuries to talk about, the backfield for the Giants, but it seems like running backs are dropping like flies, unfortunately, and quarterbacks. That's part of the NFL. And then we have some offensive linemen and some defensive. I'll let RC, that's what his expertise is. We're looking for those, on Monday, the winning, there was only one entry. Kudos to Squirrel Patrol is his name. He's a professional. He played, I think, 150 max in the Millie Maker, and he was the only one with the optimal, was winning. It wasn't the optimal, and he went against the grain, RC. He went with some Panthers, and then he had a pick that you picked out. He had Ford. He played a lobby. That was his chop. And he wants Steelers defense against Cleveland. Yeah. And once Chubb went out. So he racked up a nice, at least, I don't know how many of his others were in the money, but I don't think he cared. He won. I guess he loves NBA basketball, DFS. And he was waiting for NBA. And now he's just saying, you know what? I love this NFL as well. So congratulations to him, but what are you thinking on either sides of the ball? Let you start wherever you want to start. What do you think about the matchup? Obviously, I think the spread's 10.5 maybe, so 49ers are favored, but chime in.
I'll set the table with this just as an overview for these two teams matching up. And I think there's a bit of a potential head fake coming between these two teams, or a mystery that we as a collective don't fully know about how good or bad either of these two teams are. And I say that because San Francisco assumed great, not assumed good, assumed great. Obviously, they've got a good frontline group of recognizable players, made it to the Final Four, could have made it to the Super Bowl and won it without the Purdy injury. They bring that group back. Seems like um, they're in it to make a Super Bowl run again this year. They go out week one, they obliterate the Steelers. So then everybody's in love with the 49ers, thinking they're the greatest. Then they follow that up by beating the Rams, but not totally beating them. And now that we're through 2 weeks of the season and we've seen a couple of cards dealt of these teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers may be the worst team in the NFL. So the 49ers just throttling them on the opening week, I'm throwing that out of all consideration of how to figure
Hey, they
out
beat
what.
Cleveland. Come on, they
Well,
beat Cleveland, but they
they
can't
beat
be
they beat
the
Cleveland off of two lucky defensive touchdowns and
a scoop and score. That's definitely part of your planned offense or
well,
the defense.
if the first play of the game is a pass to the outside that bobbles off of three different players, lands in one of your players' hands, who catches it and runs it in for a touchdown on the first play, that they should run that play every down. They should run that play, and the Steelers will go to the Super Bowl. But
Well, then we can say they're fortunate to be 1-1. I don't know if we
yeah,
can label them as the
the
worst team,
they
but
I would argue they are the worst team. That between them and the Carolina Panthers, seriously, it's the two worst teams that I've seen in the first 2 weeks of the season. The Steelers are giving up 1 million yards a game on the ground.
that's an
They
exaggeration.
they are the most inefficient offense. I think they're I'm not looking at it, but I would guess that they're last in the league in rushing. They're one of the most inefficient passing games, one of the worst offensive lines.
Pickens is good.
So if George Pickens doesn't catch that pass and take it to the house, if he trips and falls, if somebody's in his way, if it's a nice 20-yard gain, I don't know that the Steelers have 150 yards offense in that game. So this is that's a bad Steelers team, and it's important to me to note that San Francisco going out and whooping them doesn't really shouldn't mix into our brains for trying to figure out how good the 49ers are. Because then last week, 49ers took on a Rams team that people were scratching their heads that they beat Seattle, figuring that that's lucky. They have players that are starring right now that kind of come out of nowhere. A team people don't take seriously, and the Rams were beat. The Rams were toe to toe, and I would argue were outplaying the 49ers from the jump. The 49ers are good, so the 49ers kept up with the Rams. Late in the second half, there was a turn of events turnover with the Rams driving to either take the lead or further the lead that they had. That swung back around from not a Rams score to San Francisco then taking a drive and going in for a score, so a 14-point swing. The 49ers to me are more like the team that had to struggle to beat a good Rams team. I don't think the 49ers are elite. I don't believe they deserve to be a 10.5 point favorite, where vice versa, the New York Giants, we discount them because they got throttled by the Cowboys, but everybody right now is going to get throttled by the Cowboys. The best looking team on considering both sides of the ball by far, this is not a shocking statement, is the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, this is as good a football team through 2 weeks. And the first week, I didn't know how much of it was the rain, how much of it was sloppy week one play. Um, man, did they look good against the Jets in week 2 against a
Well,
very
they're
good
led by that
defense.
defense. I read
Well,
a stat, Prescott still has, I don't even know if he's thrown a touchdown. Maybe he hasn't needed to, but I think Pollard has some touchdowns. But yeah, that
against
defense
a
is always
well
going to be
against a
elite, right?
well, the Jets are arguably right up there as a defense, and the Dallas Cowboys offense did not. This is a Jets defense that carried Zach Wilson to a victory over the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. And the Buffalo Bills are pretty good, are a top 10 NFL team. And that defense took Zach Wilson, who's not good, and got them over the finish line. That same defense goes and plays Dallas, and the Dallas Cowboys played offense like that the Jets defense wasn't even there. And the Jets defense is really nasty. And Dallas didn't blink. The protection was great. I think Dak Prescott looks as good. He looks as healthy and fresh in his legs and his arm as I've seen him. I was worried that maybe the Dak Prescott from last year was the Dak Prescott we're going to get going forward, that his NFL career might be fading from all of his, various injuries. He looks fantastic. He had protection against a team that can really rush the passer. He threw the ball all over the place. They ran over. They used 3 running backs, Pollard mostly, but they rotated in running back. They just ran over the Jets and put 30 points on them, and that's a really good Jets defense. So I say all that in that the Giants getting crushed in the rain week 1, if I throw that out, if I throw both of these teams weeks 1s out, then I look more at their week 2s to try to get a feel for who they are. And the Giants getting down to Arizona is no shame because we've talked about it. Arizona is one of the best coached, best performing teams out there. They're not abundantly talented, but they're way better than
Oh,
anybody
and two.
would give them credit for.
Yeah.
They're 0-2. They should be 2-0. They had both of those games in their pocket. That's a good team, and they looked even better in week 2, obviously getting out to a 21 to nothing lead. It was an earned 21 nothing lead, and the Giants having 6 quarters of no touchdowns and everything looking miserable to get up off the mat and fight back in the second half and pull that game out, even if they would have fallen short, but to pull that game out, that was impressive. That to me was as impressive as the 49ers scuffling with the Rams, who are really good, and beating them. I don't care about week 1 that the Giants got crushed by Dallas, and I don't care that San Francisco crushed the Steelers. So I don't think the gap between these two teams is as vast, but then you throw in the Giants aren't going to have Saquon Barkley. That's a hit. Then the Giants,
When did he go out? I was thinking,
very,
what
very
part of,
late, very late.
okay, because I was one, I mean, they obviously, they did what they did. Danny Dimes ended up being in the winner of the Millie
Yep,
Maker on Sunday, which, because of that comeback he was throwing, right? They were
yep.
down at half, but no, I'm with you on the Barkley thing, obviously is huge.
But
They got
running back,
Breida.
yeah, running back is usually not the thing that turns games, so that can be overcome. The Giants have a couple of offensive linemen who are hurt. We'll have to see the status officially, but if they're without Andrew Thomas, and I haven't been able to see the football news in the last 30 minutes since my internet went down, but all eyes will be on Andrew Thomas. Um, and I think they have a guard is questionable for the game tonight. If they're missing 2 offensive linemen,
Yeah.
that's gonna be
They're
a
going to
pro.
have
I
to
mean,
throw. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know how they're going to run. I mean, the Niners' strength is that run defense. So
but
the
and
Rams moved against them with Pakua
yeah,
and Atwell, right?
and they ran the ball against the 49ers well enough to keep it honest. And Matt
I
Breida
know
is,
Williams had 2 touchdowns. I don't know, were they
yeah,
running or did they have
and
it out? Did he have his little flips out of the backfield?
he had one out of the backfield, but one rushing because they get close. And he's a smaller, quick guy that runs as fast as he can until something's in his way. So the Rams have good blocking, and he ran until he got to the goal line and got in. Um, Matt Breida is like that kind of runner. So Matt Breida is like Kyron Williams. So it's not, the Giants aren't totally dead because they don't have Saquon Barkley. They can devise, if the Giants decided to play like the Rams did, which is asking a lot since Daniel Jones is not Matt Stafford. But if they get Breida more out on the wings in that game against San Francisco, Kyron Williams had 10 targets. So if they were to do that with Breida and get him on the outside, get him away from the congestion up the middle, that would be the way that they're going to have to go about it. He'll do some interior running, but so did Kyron Williams. And Breida was originally a 49er, so there may be some revenge factor there. The 49ers
Yeah, I remember that.
didn't
What about the other
necessarily
two? They
treat him
got they
well.
got a rookie, Eric Gray, who I think was
Eric Gray's a
Oklahoma.
0. Yeah, he's a 0.
What
And
about Brightwell?
Brightwell will probably come if they get 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, goal line to go and 1. They might bring in Brightwell for that. Brightwell will probably get some touches,
How about a
but I would
fullback? If they have anything at fullback?
no, nothing,
Okay,
nothing of DFS consequence, nothing like what the
okay.
49ers can sometimes have.
Yeah,
So
Jurisic or whatever his name is.
yeah, so I think this goes on the shoulders definitely of Daniel Jones running and passing. And
Yeah.
I don't think, I'm suspicious that the 49ers defense is as good as everybody thinks it is because of what they did to Pittsburgh. I'm more looking at the version of them that faced the Rams. They couldn't stop the Rams pretty much any drive that they had. Now, Daniel Jones is not Matt Stafford, but the Giants are not horrible on offense. They've got weapons, and if Daniel Jones has protection, he can do fine. Plus he'll run, which is good for fantasy numbers. So
Well, I'll ask you a few questions. Hold on. I've got the Sportstopia site up. I know you're a contributor now there with articles
mhm.
as well as what I said earlier. You can go, went to an article that was posted today, Purdy versus Jones, offers intrigue. You're going to cover that. Show the ticker up top, gives you games and money lines and spreads, and you can hit an odds button, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to go back to the optimizer here because this is what we're going to focus. I actually had some people watch the video last week and a question came in from one of Brandon's friends, so I'll get to that. But let me go back to the optimizer, today's slate. We make sure we're not in the middle of an update. Go. I'm gonna ask you, you're covering pretty good on the Giants. Talked about the running back. You like Breida, Danny Dimes. I definitely think he's gotta be the guy today for them to have a chance. What about receivers? They seem to have a smorgasbord. Anybody stand out to you?
uh yeah, I'm gonna answer that, but give me a 10-second filler. The internet's all now starting to pop up, so I might be
You might make an
disconnected and
appearance
then
video wise.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then I
no
might be
worries.
disconnected and reconnected. So
Oh,
just
okay.
give me a 10-second delay. I'll keep
Yeah,
talking
no worries.
here in a second,
Yeah,
but
I'll talk about, yeah, go ahead. I'll point out highest in the captain, obviously, is Mr. McCaffrey. He's most expensive. Gonna not be well owned in captain because he's so expensive. It's about 4,000, 4,500 higher than Danny Dimes. Purdy's third, Debo fourth with Aiyuk. Questionable. I don't know. I'll ask RC, thinking they might not risk Aiyuk in this. thinking they don't need him. Oh, look you're here. You're live and you're
All right.
clear. Yeah.
Welcome to 2023. Now we're ready to win some money.
Oh, we're going to win it anyway. But talk about the receivers. It looks like the favored to project with the optimizer, Slayton. Paris Campbell's been popping a little bit, obviously Waller, and then Hodkins and Hyatt. They got a lot of receivers, don't they? Looks like they
I,
rotate in
I think
four.
there's a
So, and even Sterling Shepard came up. I don't know. He's kind of a dart sheep, but go ahead. I'll let you talk about it.
there's a beautiful moment for a wide receiver here, for DFS, for prop betting, for a lot of things.
Okay, we'll
But
keep that's a secret. That's your beautiful moment pick from near your back pocket that we'll leave till the end, but we'll jot
okay,
that down. We'll keep people hanging to watch. But go ahead. Talk about
okay.
the other not so beautiful moments on the receiving side.
What the Giants want to do is be Darren Waller led. He will be their leading target receiver by plan. And then the other three starting receivers, Hodgins, Slayton, and Paris Campbell, will be rotated or not rotated in and out, but the targets will go to them without a lot of direction. It may be, if I was going to try to pull one of those guys, if the well, no, it looks like the ownership of Paris Campbell's pretty high. I was going to say Paris Campbell
Well,
has
some of
not
these,
been
just so
good.
you know, some of them are in flex and some captain, like if you see
Okay.
out to the right. So, but yeah, Paris
Okay.
Campbell,
Oh, I see Paris
he's low
Campbell's
in the
price is down.
captain. He's
Yeah,
less than 1% owned in captain. So
got it. Okay, I see the difference. So his price is down pretty low. He was supposed to be the wide receiver target leader of this group. Um,
came over from
but
the Colts, right?
yeah, and it hasn't worked out. It hasn't been that great for the first 2 weeks. But the one thing that they did this in the preseason was work on Paris Campbell as a running back. And now you've
Mm.
got Saquon Barkley out. I mean, they had Paris Campbell legit lined up in the backfield, not for one cute play, trying to make him a quasi. The people around that were when I was talking with them, they're like, this looks like they're trying to make him like a Debo Samuel. So they worked on that and worked on that. Paris Campbell talked about that in the media, and Paris Campbell's got a good size and he's got great speed. He could be that kind of guy, I've always thought, but he always gets hurt. He never comes through for long. Um, Held up pretty well last year on a bad Colts team. He's starting slot, was supposed to be the main target wide receiver, Waller the overall top target, but then Paris would be the tops of the wide receivers. Tonight may be the night, and this is not my super dark secret play. We can save that for the end, but Paris Campbell of that group could get interesting, that they put on Thursday Night Football on a primetime game, that they've been holding the Paris Campbell playing running back card in their pocket. And this night without Saquon Barkley could be a night to reveal it.
I like it because what's going to happen? I mean, just out of the nature of the beast, people are going to try to jam 49ers. I mean, McCaffrey's going to be overall. I mean, he's only projected 19 in the captain, but he's 58, and that's probably low. So combined, but they're going to try to jam McCaffrey. They're going to try to jam Debo and Purdy and Kittle, right? And then
Mhm.
piece in. It's going to be so many 1-4 builds. Probably Danny Dimes. They're going to try to get in, maybe a receiver. So the contrarian play is going to be more than one giant. And if you want three, if you want Waller, Campbell, Danny Dimes, or maybe this super secret, really deep from the back near your back pocket pick, that too, you're going to automatically, I guarantee you, almost nobody's going to play three giant. almost zero, except maybe me is going to play 4, right? But if you do, you get different, right? And
Yep.
if the 49ers, the Giants defense can't be that good. I mean, they allowed Arizona points. They allowed, right, Dallas a lot of points. So I like the total over. I like, even though you said it, 49ers may not have as good a defense. So if it's a shootout
Yep.
and the Giants are chasing the 49ers, then you're going to have points. Danny Dimes is going to have points running and throwing. You're going to have to throw it to somebody. You got Campbell as an option receiver, and then a gadget play out of the backfield that he maybe gets a run in. So I like that a lot. I learned a lesson on Monday night. Try to, and it's contrarian. Get away from where everybody is. The ownership on Bryce Young and Hurst, and even though Hurst wasn't optimal, I mean, the play was what we thought. Ronald Jones, or not Ronald Jones, but Ford, right? He was less than 3% owned. He was like and of that 3% owned, a lot of people played him with Chubb, but very few, less than 1% played him without Chubb. So he was optimal. Olave was a chalk, and he was a good play. But the guy had like 3 Panthers. You know how many people played 3 Panthers? Hardly none, right? Because we talked about it. The Saints defense was good, but they didn't score a lot, but they scored enough. And then when Olave was there, and then the Steelers, they had that defense, they scored 26 points. So if you went with 3, I'd put them out there. I mean, you can't fade Danny Dimes. I don't think there's a chance in heck the Giants are in the game without him doing something. Do you
Yep.
do you see that as possible?
No, I think he could have as big a game tonight as he did week 2. Two quick things to interject in there. One, while you're talking about the Panthers, I was just getting a message from someone. Andy Dalton is starting this week. Bryce Young is out for Carolina. That's breaking news, but then by the time people see this, it won't be breaking news. Then secondly, the part 2 on Darren Waller. He is the lead of the offense on the passing game, but the San Francisco 49ers for the last 3 years have been the most lethal defense shutting down tight ends. So I would be in the contrarian world. George Kittle has been really nothing since Purdy has been in place and Deebo Samuel playing. When Deebo Samuel has been out with Purdy, George Kittle has gone bananas. But with Deebo Samuel fully healthy and integrated into the offense with Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle is a ghost. Like his
Well,
numbers
what
are
about
a
Aiyuk might
disaster.
not play? What's your
But
thoughts
but
there?
but now with Aiyuk out or Aiyuk just out there as a decoy, this may be a version of what happens when Deebo Samuel's not around and George Kittle ends up having, touchdown explosions. Waller makes the most sense on paper, but I would go with Kittle more over Waller for DFS, considering the prices and the contrarian. And this could be the moment. I mean, Kittle's just due in general, but Kittle's numbers are really bad with Purdy when Deebo and Aiyuk are both playing. But
That makes sense. Yeah.
when Deebo's out, Kittle's the best tight end in fantasy football. It's really, but it's a short sample size, like 3 or 4 games. Um,
Well, I would think part of it's CMC because he's out of the backfield, right? So that's another target. So that's like
that's
if
a,
you got Samuels, you got Ayuk, and you got CMC.
and I
Kittle's
think
kind of the 4th guy, right? He
and
draws a lot of coverage because he's been that guy for a while. But go ahead.
the 49ers are starting to have some offensive line issues. So I think he has to also, they're very comfortable with him staying in to block. Um, so there may be some of that factor to it, but
Is there any way that you see a winning lineup having no McCaffrey?
no, I mean, McCaffrey's the one thing in this game probably short of, well, we suspect if the Giants are going to hang in, it's going to be because of Daniel Jones. taking back a step back off of that, because you never know what Daniel Jones is going to do from one game to the next. The most money chalk thing in this is McCaffrey. But a close second because of the Aiyuk situation last week when Brandon Aiyuk, he got hurt on like in the first series, tried to play through it, only played about half the snaps. If he is out or if he is just a decoy, Deebo Samuel had his first big game in a while because they went away from Aiyuk. If Aiyuk was totally healthy, you would fade Deebo, you would go into Brandon Aiyuk just like week one. But with Aiyuk not a factor, even if he's active, this is where you go in on Deebo Samuel. This will be a McCaffrey Deebo Samuel event to where maybe Purdy is throwing it that way instead of those two guys running it that way. But it could be that those two guys just run it and Purdy doesn't get his touchdown passes. They get rushing
Couple of
touchdowns.
questions. Yeah, good points. Mitchell's been almost invisible. Does he make an appearance this game? I mean, obviously, bar an injury he's in, and that definitely tilts the slate. But has it surprised you that they played McCaffrey almost 100% of the snaps?
Every team in the NFL, including back to college, that possesses McCaffrey can talk all they want about managing reps. NFL teams don't manage reps unless somebody's coming off a major injury the season before. Maybe they manage their reps the first week and then they forget all about it. When you got Christian McCaffrey, whether it was Carolina, whether it was Stanford, whether it's San Francisco, they can talk all they want about managing reps. If it's a game, they're gonna go they're going to give everything they can to McCaffrey. It's just and NFL teams don't think any lead is safe, nor do they think a 35-point deficit with 3 minutes to go is cause to pull their starters out. So like when San Francisco was bombing the Steelers, McCaffrey was playing way too far into that game. So I
Would you
I don't
fade
even
Mitchell? There's no chance you think he
yeah
gets in the
I
box?
don't there it's possible he'll get a couple of carries through the natural process of things. If it gets to be a blowout, then in the fourth quarter, you can start to see Mitchell play. But if you don't think this is going to be a blowout, and I don't think this will be a blowout, I don't think we'll see a lot of Mitchell.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Let's say Ayuk doesn't play. I don't think he will much. I think he might be out. Juwan Jennings as another receiver with Samuel. What do you think of him? And
Uh,
he's down there at about 4,800. Looked like he's garnering maybe 10% in the flex. He's had his moments with them. Do you think does he take any of the Ayuk volume? If
he's po
if they
he's possible for a touchdown uh, under normal circumstances, but the what will happen if Brandon Aiyuk is either out or if they're managing him and he plays less snaps, he played about half the snaps on last week. If he is out, rookie Ronnie Bell will be the one in his place. And Ronnie Bell has a lot in common with Brandon Aiyuk, except for he's obviously a rookie and not as integrated into the offense. I would do Ronnie Bell versus Jawan Jennings.
he come from
But
Michigan?
Michigan, I think, yeah, one of the Michigans.
Yeah, I thought
Michigan
he
or
was in
Michigan State.
Michigan.
He's Michigan. Yeah, he's Michigan.
$200, huh? And some people have noticed him 11%. I mean, that allows you, what is he in the captain? Bell and
If
the captain is, I mean,
if
that's almost like a Sterling Sharp. Ronnie Bell is 300 in the captain, so that's interesting. I'm gonna lock him in and see.
well, if Ayuk is active, then Ayuk is probably going to play 50 to 70% of the snaps and not really get targeted. He's going to be out there as somebody just for the Giants to chase around. But it could be less than 50% of the snaps. If
Has Bell
Ayuk
been getting
is
in at all in
if
either of the first two games?
when Ayuk was out, when Ayuk play was out, and Brandon Ayuk, well, let me just give the numbers and it'll make sense. last week, Brandon Aiyuk played 53% of the snaps, and Ronnie Bell played 47%.
Wow. Do
Does
we
that
have any
tell you the?
touches?
Don't think
Targets?
so. Let me check. No, no targets. So which is the forerunner of how they can run their offense with just those guys being a decoy. However, Ronnie Bell was really good in the preseason. Ronnie Bell on some other teams might be pushing to be a starter or a number 4 wide receiver in the rotation. Ronnie Bell also works in the return game if they want to use him that way. Um, Ronnie Bell would be the one who could surprise that Aiyuk is out, Bell then actually starts, and then if the Giants aren't taking him seriously and the 49ers know what they got in Ronnie Bell, this could be a bit of a surprise. Ronnie Bell gets 4 or 5 catches for 50, 60 yards.
Look at the I threw him in, just locked him in the blend. You got him and captain. It allows you to play McCaffrey, Danny Dimes, Debo, Purdy, and Waller. That's an interesting one, huh?
I got one better than Ronnie Bell, but
Okay.
there is a Ronnie Bell event
We'll
potential.
save him
But
till the end. We're going to keep people hanging till
yeah,
the end of this podcast. But yeah, that I
get
definitely.
excited. Yeah, get excited about Bell if Ayuk is inactive. If Ayuk's active, then it's gonna be he's probably gonna play some, could play a lot, but it'll be a little bit of a mystery. If Ayuk is out, then there's no mystery. You're gonna see some Ronnie Bell.
I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to run. I'm going to run 30 of the blend, which will. Where are you? I didn't set any diversity, but let's just see what it does with 30 blend. Bell. We put Bell in all of them. Yeah. Bell mixes in some Breida, some Aiyuk, so I could have faded Aiyuk. There's a Bell, McCaffrey, Danny Dimes, Samuel, Kittle, and Waller. Likes Waller. There's Campbell. You got Bell, McCaffrey, Jones, Aiyuk, Purdy, Campbell. So if we hear news that Aiyuk is out, then obviously that takes him out and allows a lot. You got Hodkins in there, Harris, Campbell, but these
There's
are
there's one that's gonna be better. That's gonna make you change all these lineups. So I'm
and
just
again, I know that's why we
I'm
have you
just
on here. So it isn't that they picked up, just so people watching. Akers went to the Vikings. He's not coming to the Giants. So just for you thinking, right? They may be thinking we had inside track that Akers was coming to the Giants, but he's going to the Vikings. They picked him up a little while ago. I don't know if you picked up on that, but they traded Kirk Cousins to no, I'm just kidding. They did pick up Akers, so he's not the running back that's going to come in for Barkley, because I think Barkley's injury is not as severe as I think they probably could have played him. He might play next week, but anyways, it's an ankle. Okay, I just ran that to show some people some examples. Brandon's friend's question is, run the optimizer tonight with 10 lineups and have RC pick a favorite and see if he would make any substitutions. Well, yes. At the end of the show, RC is going to insert his substitution. And everybody stay tuned. We have another 10 to 15 minutes before RC's got to cut out. And so do I. So talk about how we talked about the receivers, 49ers. How are the D-backs for the Giants? I mean, who's the stick-em guy? I could try to hang with Debo, although that's not the easiest to do. You said 49ers cover tight ends, which makes sense. If they practice against Kittle, he's one of the best. So that always would make sense. But how the defensive look? You talked about offense. offensive lines, the Giants, there are some holes and questions, but what about defenses on both sides?
On the Giant side, they have a pretty young secondary, two rookie corners, but they're good, but they're unproven. But Deebo Samuel isn't affected by matchup because he gets the ball in so many different ways. It doesn't really matter how strong or weak the cornerback coverage is on him. So the Giants aren't great covering the tight end. So Kittle's got no impediments. Debo doesn't really ever have an impediment except for when Brandon Aiyuk is in the lineup. Then Aiyuk gets more of the love, and Debo's gets to be more of a running back and part-time receiver. So there's nothing the Giants are going to bring or do in this game that's going to affect the 49ers radically one way or the other. The Giants aren't a bad defense. They're not a great defense. They're just there. They're neutral. And then San Francisco, I still have my suspicions how good this defense is. Their corners are shaky, but Daniel Jones, it's not like Daniel Jones is, you know, Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert and is going to pick them apart. So I would say San Francisco's secondary is more neutral in this game than having a great effect, positive or negative. Great front seven. If San Francisco, the thing that they do best is they're going to stuff up the run a little bit, and they're going to usually neutralize the tight end for fantasy numbers, but the receivers aren't. Their coverage, their secondary is not that spectacular. It's good, but it's not like, oh, we're facing Dallas here, we're facing the Jets here.
I'm not going to give away your pick, but I think I know who it is. Is it on the Giant side of the ball?
Yes.
Okay, I won't give it away, but we've talked about him before, and now I see I was sitting there thinking, who is he thinking of? It makes a lot of sense. We'll wait about 5 minutes, but I like it too now. I was like going, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I'll let you get to that. Like we say, I mean, the winning lineup to me is going to have more Giants in it than people are going to play. They're going to try to smash. I mean, McCaffrey, like you said, he's almost unfadable unless he got hurt. And then obviously that shifts the whole, you might want to, depending on how many you play, I'm going to jam at least 50 into the Millionaire Maker, maybe a little more. Try to get as diverse as I can. So am I going to have one without Mitchell? No, I'll throw Mitchell in there just because, God forbid, you don't want McCaffrey to get hurt. But I say the one that I fade McCaffrey and put Mitchell, I'll probably have Debo because they both can play out of the backfield then, right? If McCaffrey would happen to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Dimes is unfadable, to me. Like he's got to be in the winning. I mean, I don't see how they shut him completely down. Who else on that team other than the secret missile weapon that you're going to give that may appear out of nowhere and people will go, how the heck did anybody play him? That's what we bring RC on the show for, because he's digging down near his back pocket all the way to the weeds and pulling up someone that no one else will think about unless they watch this, and then millions of people all join in and then it becomes popular. But we try to release this really close to when the game starts, that way people they're rushing to see what happens. But I mean Mitchell, yeah, if someone would have said that he had almost no carries in 2 games, I would have thought they were, like you say, that Pittsburgh game was a blowout and they mixed him in other years, right? I mean, last year McCaffrey came over and Mitchell was there in some, and San Francisco. I mean, what about, it could be a sneaky play. It seems like a 49er game on Monday night or whenever they're highlighted Thursday, that fullback Jurzik, or what's his name, comes in on some sets, right? And they'll have, and almost like everybody's expecting it to go one way, and boom, they give it to the fullback, and he goes in, right? And everybody's like, ah! I didn't play him. Where's he at? I don't even see him. Where is he? Do they have a new fullback? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk. He's usually good for a touch.
Yeah. I don't see him. I do not see him. Where's he at? Where's he at?
Guess they're not listing him.
Yeah, maybe he's inactive or something, but okay. We have about 5 minutes, so you have to go. Go ahead. I have a feeling it's a Giant, and I have a feeling it may be a tight end of the Giants. But you tell me, who's the secret weapon that maybe because of what you're thinking? Tell us your thinking on why this guy could be.
Your feeling is wrong.
Oh, I
So
am.
I'll bait you with that. One quick thing about Elijah Mitchell, just to wrap up, as you're talking, when I'm looking away, I'm looking up snap counts and some additional information. So while you were talking about Elijah Mitchell, I just went and looked. He didn't even play a snap last week.
I know.
Um, in week 1, he got 5 carries for 10 yards in a blowout. So, I mean, they were in a blowout and he barely got to play. He's very fragile. He gets hurt easily. So I don't, and he was hurt coming out of preseason. So I don't know if they're taking it easy with him. I don't know if he re-hurt something or if they're just gonna like I think it looks like they're getting away from this whole idea like, oh, we're gonna reduce McCaffrey's workload by, sharing with Elijah Mitchell. I think they're like, ah, screw this. We're gonna go McCaffrey. We'll leave Elijah Mitchell on the sidelines. If McCaffrey really gets hurt, then we'll switch everything over and we'll be with Elijah Mitchell. Like we don't care. We've thrived with Mitchell. We'll thrive with McCaffrey. So it doesn't look like they're into that anymore. To finish out Elijah Mitchell talk. And I think their third running back, who probably isn't even listed in the thing, Jordan Mason, is better than Elijah Mitchell right now.
Has he had any touches?
But he hasn't had any touches, so I
Okay.
wouldn't even mess with that. Um,
Okay.
your guess of Lawrence Cager is somebody to consider that if Waller ever goes down, that Cager would go in and fill into a spot. But again, the 49ers are really good at squashing the tight end. So you'd have to get the long shot of Waller
Do they play
opening up the
double tight
door.
end with Cager and him in?
No,
That's what.
they
Oh,
they
okay. That's why I
they
was
play
thinking maybe they tried
no,
to cover Waller and Cager floated, out of the other side. But okay.
they play double tight end with Waller and Bellinger. Bellinger being the blocker. When Cager comes in is usually because Waller's going out. I mean, they've occasionally put both of those guys in at the same time, but Cager's more of the if Waller goes down, Cager is his clone. So you'd have to have Waller going down, and then you'd have to have San Francisco letting their guard down against tight ends because it's not Darren Waller anymore. So I mean, there's a Hail Mary shot at it, but I don't think it's
Well,
strong. There's
that's
something.
not. Then you got me. I mean, Wan'Dale's injured. I don't think he's even in. I think he's out. So I was thinking maybe that was the other guy you're going to say, Robinson. But
The best
uh,
wide receiver, and there's something to Wan'Dale Robinson. He's going to be active, so I believe they
oh, is he?
will.
I had him
Yeah,
injured, but okay.
yeah, he's hurt. He's been hurt, working his way back, but I believe news today was that he was going to be active, eligible tonight. Whether they make him a healthy inactive, we'll have to see at 7 o'clock. But I think if Wan'Dale Robinson is activated, and he's not my guy for this, but if he's activated, they will use him. And for the price, it's not crazy if you see him active that he's not going to get carries out of the backfield and some simple screen passes. Wan'Dale Robinson can be a quasi Jahmyr Gibbs type running back, even though he's a wide receiver. They could use Wan'Dale Robinson as a weapon because they're going to have to do something unique because of the Saquon Barkley issue.
Is that your
So
pick?
that's not my pick. But
Wow, now you really got me wondering.
if I see Wan'Dale Robinson active, I'm going to be curious about um, throwing him in a couple lineups if you're doing a heavy amount of lineups, because it could get interesting. It's asking a lot with him off an injury, usually with him off of his knee injury and him off of general injury, and then bringing him back the very first game back. They do take it light on somebody like him. So I don't know that they would throw him into the fire, but he could see some touches. He could be a difference maker if he's really fully healthy that San Francisco's not prepared for, no, they wouldn't have seen on tape the first 2 weeks of the season. The best wide receiver that the New York Giants possess, and now it's only a matter of time before he's a starter and their best receiver is the rookie Jalen Hyatt, who had two 30-plus yard catches last week. He could have had 5 30-plus yard catches last week if Daniel Jones was looking in his direction. Jalen Hyatt beats all coverages. He will beat any coverage the 49ers throw at him. But the thing is that he's not a feature guy. There's not a ton of tape on how the Giants are going to use him or use him heavy. When he gets inserted into the game, it's to stretch the field. And the 49ers are not going to put their best cover person on him. They're probably going to put it on one of Hodgins or Slayton. But Hyatt changes the offense when he's rotated in. He didn't play much week 1, but then he played about 20% of the snaps, I think, week 2, had 2 big plays, nearly had a touchdown, nearly had another 1 or 2 30-plus yard opportunities where I watched the tape and he just dusts his coverage, but Daniel Jones isn't looking. Tonight would be a night that they've got to get, if they're going to surprise the 49ers, if they're going to put the 49ers on their heels on defense, it's got to be with Jalen Hyatt. And Jalen Hyatt is the most talented receiver, the most physically gifted receiver that they have. He looked excellent last week.
Well, if you put him in the captain, he's not cheap, but what I like about it is he's projected less than 1% owned. It allows, I like this, probably the Baker, which is a 50,000 simulation. He's one of our data providers along with you, RC at ffmetrics.com, FTN, 40,000 sims, RotoWire, but you've got McCaffrey, Breida, Danny Dimes, so you got three Giants, 3 49ers. It gives you Debo. You're fading Purdy. You actually have 4 Giants. And you got McCaffrey and Samuel, which could definitely play out. But that's one of the options. Here you do mix in Mitchell with McCaffrey, which would be, I don't think hardly anybody plays those two together. I think they figure one or the other, but not both. So that's interesting. You do a max, and I know we're running out of time here. We've got a couple minutes. If you do a 50 lineups in the blend, I set a 60% exposure rule. See what it throws. I didn't fade anybody. Comes up Hyatt, McCaffrey, Jones, Mitchell, Debo, Kittle, Giants D. That would, how many people are going to play the Giants D tonight?
That is contrary.
If the Giants D would score that's a winner, right? You got Hyatt, McCaffrey. I mean, the defense, it seems like they've played a role in these first few primetime game, so it's not out of the question. There's Hyatt, McCaffrey, Danny Dimes, there's Campbell that you like, there's Darius Slayton. I mean, it's really game script where the 49ers can get out and McCaffrey can, score 3 touchdowns, right? Rushing
I may
or
have lost you.
What is it? You lose me? Or are you looking? You froze. His internet may have.
I'm back. Yeah, it blanked out there. So I'm looking at the lineups. For me, any lineup, yeah, and it's getting to be on my end where the connection's a little unstable. A lineup with McCaffrey, Daniel Jones, and Debo and Kittle is the 4 that I really feel strong about. That I can then have my Jalen Hyatt gamble, and if I can wedge Paris Campbell in there, that would be my favorite lineup if it
Well,
configures,
that's
if it's
about. I mean, there's
possible to
Hyatt,
configure.
McCaffrey, Samuel. You get even Purdy, but no Danny Dimes, right? And then
I'd like to have Dimes, and I'd like to have Kittle instead of Purdy and Slayton. I can live with a Purdy, um, or multiple configurations, one with Kittle in, one with Paris Campbell in as an X factor, one with Purdy, one with Daniel Jones. But Hyatt allows you to open up the rest of the group. And with Hyatt, it's going to be boom or bust. He's either going to have no catches on 3 targets because Daniel Jones couldn't hit him when he was open, or he's going to have 2 or 3 catches for 100+ yards and a long touchdown.
it was funny, and you're not going to believe it, but it's the truth. I woke up at my normal 1 a.m, and I was sitting there thinking of a play, and I was going to give out a hint, and it was Hyatt because I was going to go on Twitter and say, the pick of the night, the secret weapon. The hint is it's a hotel chain, and no, it's not T.Y. Hilton. That's how my brain works. So you're saying and it just came back to me, right? And I'm thinking,
It's not Larry Marriott. It's not Steve La Quinta.
Yeah. Well, we've got to cut. I've got people messaging me that I got this next Zoom, but RC, I appreciate you. We are going to we'll be back on Monday. Looking forward to your article on more or less on Sportstopia, and thank you for recording this. It's going to be available on Sportstopia, Twitter, my at FS Logic. I'm sure you'll post it, and it'll be also in the YouTube channel. So
I'm signing off, and I'm going to sign off with you have my permission to win the $1 million tonight.
Thank you. That'll be the first of 2. I'll have half of it out of the way.
And if you want to win the second one first, I don't have any problem with that.
I'll go in order. You have a great one. Thank you very much.
Right. See ya.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.